guys, welcome back to Honey in the Rock. I'm Sophie, and this is Lydia.
Hi guys.
We are driving back from a baseball game. Me and Lydia met at camp. We're both working Fuge this summer.
Hey.
We saw each other. She had a cute pink outfit on, and I knew I wanted to be friends with her.
Yes.
And now we're here. So our whole team just went to this little baseball game, and I don't really care about baseball, but it was fun.
Yeah,
It was fun to all be together and just yelling and whatever. My voice is low-key gone.
Yeah.
Lydia's voice was also
Oh,
gone.
it was really bad last week. This week I'm kind of getting back, but just bear with me.
And then if the audio's not great, I'm sorry, I forgot the microphones. So thanks for having grace for us.
We're being
little
real.
camp counselors. So I was gonna say something about camp, but I don't really remember what I was gonna say. We have Sundays off, but we do a lot of stuff with the team, and so it's just been sweet, just get to know everyone and hang out all the time. It's a bunch of little best friends, and camp doesn't really you're in a bubble. So then when we go out in public, it just feels so
We
strange.
just look silly when we're doing all of our cheers.
Somebody came up to us at the game and was like, "Are y'all camp counselors?" And we're like, "Yeah, sorry." Just so loud.
It's obvious.
Okay, Lydia's gonna share your testimony, but tell us a little about yourself, your family, and then you can dive into your testimony.
Okay, guys. So I'm from Hampton, Georgia. It's about 45 minutes south of Atlanta.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs, sick 'em. I grew up in an amazing Christian home with 2 loving parents, a younger sister, amazing grandparents, aunts and uncles, everybody. I currently go to Liberty University. I'm going into my sophomore year, and I'm exercise science as my major, and I want to do pediatric occupational therapy, and I want to specialize in kids with disabilities. So it teaches kids how to walk or find motor skills like that. So it's a really rewarding job.
Yeah.
So,
That's epic. Liberty, what is your mascot?
well, we have 2.
Okay.
We have an eagle and then we have a flame.
Okay.
But
the
we
flame.
say go flames, but then an eagle is what they represent. So.
Right, got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Share your testimony. You said you grew up in a Christian home, but how did you experience Jesus for yourself and own your own faith, not it just be your parents?
Yeah. So, like I said, I grew up in a Christian home. My mom was a children's pastor. My dad was a youth pastor when I was born. They aren't anymore, but when I was born, I was a double PK. So, I literally was in the church from a couple days old, and I was just poured into a lot. And I was surrounded by people in the youth group, people in the children's ministry. So I really saw what having faith as someone who's a couple years older than me looked like. And so
There goes your earring.
Yeah. But I started asking questions about my faith when I was 4 years old, I think. And when I was 5, this is funny actually. When I was 5, I was in the bathtub, and my mom was there. She was reading a book or something, and I was like, "Mom, why won't you let me become a Christian?" And she was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, you keep saying wait till I'm older. I know I'm a sinner. I know my heart is black, and I want Jesus to make it clean." And so my parents talked to me after that for a little bit, and really made sure I understood what I was doing, not that it was just I saw everyone else around me doing it, but that it was a genuine surrender to the Lord.
Yeah.
And so I gave my life to the Lord genuinely at the age of 5. It's not just I didn't just say I did it to follow anybody. I genuinely knew I was a sinner, knew I needed a savior, confessed my sins to the Lord, and gave my life to Him. So I grew up in an amazing family, like I said. So hardships were kind of I don't know, they came, but I was also protected from a lot. When I was 7, my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and I think honestly that's I kind of really depended on the Lord during that time, because to me, I associated cancer, I don't know, as a little kid, I associated cancer with death, and I was like, oh my word, I'm gonna lose my mom, and I was so scared. But then I kind of took that fear, and that's something that kind of comes up later in my life is fear, but I kind of just learned to surrender things from such a young age of being 7, being scared. In that same year, my Mimi and Grandma both got cancer, so it was the 3 most important women in my life who all had cancer. And praise the Lord, they're all beat it and they're doing well today. But yeah, it was just something from such a young age that I really had to like turn to my Savior.
Yeah. And that being modeled in your home is like such a testament to the Lord's faithfulness, and when He allows that to be people's stories, and for Him to get the glory in that, and be like, He has been so faithful to us, and He's so faithful to everyone. It just looks different in everyone's own stories, but it's just like such a point to faithfulness that the Lord does.
I know my grandparents found the Lord at a way later age, and kind of started following Christ when like truly when my parents were younger, and so because of that action change, it kind of led the generations to like then a 5-year-old gives their life to Christ,
then
and like,
taking that step of
and
obedience.
then I plan on raising my kids obviously in the faith, so it's just like a one little step, or like little in like the big picture can really change generations. So when I was like 13 years old, I think like when middle school started, like I started having like friendship issues and stuff like that, like things every middle schooler goes through, and that's kind of when I really like decided that Jesus wasn't just somebody in the stories, and the Bible just wasn't like a storybook I learned in church, that it was like a personal relationship. And so obviously I had a personal relationship with Him before, but it really grew intimate during those times, and like I started getting into the Word more, and like it meaning more than just like studying it, because that's what I had always known. So so I would say maybe when I was like, I don't know, like freshman, sophomore year, something happened in my family, and it really like caused like a lot of anxiety and fear, and I had my first panic attack, and I was in the shower, and like I don't know, I didn't know what it was. I was scared. I was just like crying, and then it like happened, and I was like, I'm not gonna tell my parents I just had that. That was weird. That was scary. And something about panic attacks is once you have one, your body's it's natural response to go right back to it. So that's like when your brain gets overwhelmed, it's gonna go straight back to it. And so when other stress came back in my life, like junior year, hardest year of high school, in my opinion, I don't know how everyone else feels, but I really like had a lot going on. School was hard, friendships were hard, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And I started having panic attacks, and these were like happening every day, multiple times a day. I played 3 sports growing up, and this would happen during basketball, and it took me out for the whole season, because I would go to practice, I would have them, and I would literally have to leave every single day, and so I literally couldn't play because I wasn't practicing because I was having panic attacks. And that's a really humbling thing too, to have panic attacks in front of like an entire team or entire school. And so I really didn't know what to do, and my parents were like broken over it, because it's like when I have them, I like hyperventilate, I like black out sometimes. I just like, it's not great. And so my parents really talked to me, and like after a while they're like, I think you need to go see a Christian therapist. And I was like, no, like I didn't want to be considered like crazy or like anything. Like in my mind, like crazy people went to therapy. And I just no one really talked about it. And so I didn't really ever know. So I started going to therapy. I wasn't that open to it at first, but I was just like, I'm gonna go, so my parents quit asking me. And so I got involved in a Christian therapy program that's near me, and it was so good. And we just kind of talked through what's happening in my mind and what's going on, and most of it was just an overthinking problem. I'm like a big overthinker, and so it was a lot of things I just wasn't giving to the Lord, and I was like holding on to these ideas and these things that just were untrue, and it was making my mind spiral so much. And it was because I wasn't surrendering to the Lord. So a big part of my testimony is just surrendering to the Lord. He calls us to take up our cross daily, and I was not doing that. I was not surrendering to Him and meeting Him at His feet. I was saying, hey, you can have this part of my life, and I'm going to go ahead and take this part because I want this part to go my way, and you can have this part. We think we're in control so often. I mean, even if you think you have it, you don't. And it's just like a mindset almost of, you think you have it and you really don't. And so I really had to humble myself before the Lord and kind of find out where I was, and He met me where I was, and kind of healed my heart. And I still have them. Panic attacks aren't something that just like, I mean, obviously the Lord can save, but It's something I still struggle with.
Right.
But the Lord has really worked through that. And, like, I think the last one I had was maybe, like, 8-9 months ago.
Right.
And so I went from having them every day to almost being a year and not even having one.
Awesome.
Just because when something happens, now I go straight to the Lord. And, like, having dependence in the Lord is something that is vital to your Christian life.
Well, and, like, we're always going to be facing, like, hard things, whether it's a huge, like, feels like a huge valley, or if it's just like a little curve where it's like, oh, I'm in a stressful situation. It's like, what's your response to that? And if your response is taking it to the Lord, then there's where this freedom and peace is gonna come. But if your response is like trying to control it, or trying to like white knuckle, like push through by yourself, or like whatever your response is where I feel like our brains drift off.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's all about, like, how you respond to situations that come up.
So, this is something that has really, like, come up recently in, like, my Christian walk. So, about a month ago, I went through a breakup. It was a 2-year-long relationship. It was just, like, a lot.
Right.
And I was really just, like, upset. And at first, you know, your natural response is to be like, God, why is this happening? And I don't think it's wrong to question why the Lord is doing something. I mean, in Job, it talks about how Job was questioning why God said something, but he wasn't angry. It's about how your heart is in it. And it's normal to be like, hey, God, like, why is this happening? And, like, seek answers from him. But it's the difference of, is your heart in a place
it's like the underlying trust. Like, even if I don't understand, I know that you're still good and still sovereign, but, like, here's where my earthly brain is. Can you help me?
Absolutely.
Almost.
And so it really has just been depending on the Lord and, like, his fullness and his strength. And I've been turning to Matthew, where it talks about look at the flowers, and, like, he provides for the flowers, he provides for the grass, he provides for the birds, like all of these little things in the day, he provides for that. So why would he not provide for you? And in that passage, it also talks about how not to be anxious for tomorrow, because tomorrow has enough trouble of its own. But instead, we need to abide in the Lord and, like, realize that we're not supposed to figure out what's gonna happen 10 years down the road. We're not supposed to know what's gonna happen even tomorrow. We're just supposed to live today in the fullness of his mercy and grace, and just truly surrender to him in his plan for our life, because it's not going to be what we want. Like, I mean, maybe some lucky person out there like has exactly like what they wanted, and that's the Lord's plan too. But most of the time, like, I'd say 99.9% of the time, you come up with a plan in your head, and the Lord's like, hey, that's not my plan. I want you to trust me, and I want you to follow me. And so that's really been where I'm at, because there's just, like, I don't know, this season's kind of like a little bit unknown. Even like with school and like a job, like, I'm not 100% set. Like, that's where I'm heading in the direction, but, like, the Lord could change my plans like right now.
Well, and it's about, like, are we walking with open hands as we abide? So it's like we're abiding, and we're dwelling and we're resting at the feet of Jesus as believers. And okay, well, my phone overheated, so that's unfortunate. But basically, so if we're, like, sitting at Jesus' feet, abiding in him and having our hands open, we're gonna experience less, I think, disappointment, because we do not know this whole picture. We do not know what the Lord has in store for our lives, and he does care about our desires, and he does care about, like, these dreams that he gives us. But if we are just so set on, like, this small dream that we have, or this big dream that we have, that we're going to be disappointed if the Lord puts anything else in our lives, I think that sets us up just in not a great headspace. And so I think it's really cool that the Lord is teaching in this season of just being like, hey, like, I'm still in control. Like, I know sometimes you think we know what we're doing, but I'm still the one in control. I still am the one who knows the whole picture. And I find comfort in that, because it's like, he was the one who created us. He's the one who knows me fully and loves me the most. And he knows the plans for me. And that is just like, okay, I don't have to know how everything's going to work. And I'm not powerful enough to mess up God's plan. And for so long, I wanted to be doing like the right thing, or I'm like, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? But it's like, but if you're in his word and you're abiding in him, and if you're surrounded by a good community, then like you are not too powerful to mess up God's plan. If you're his child, he's gonna bring you to where you need to be. And I think there's just like so much comfort in that.
Yeah, and I think almost if you have these ideas and they're so like important to you, and not a sense of it's a goal. Of it's like your everything, of like this is the career I'm gonna be, this is the relationship I'm gonna have, this is blah blah blah, fill in the blank. That's an idol in your life, right? And I think really just learning that the Lord should be number one, and when you put the Lord as number one, everything else follows, right? And I think that's just like something I've had to learn, is when something is in the place of the Lord, there's not gonna be peace. And every time something gets in the place of the Lord, it's torn down, and God puts himself in the place he should be, he deserves, in my life, because things in this world are temporary. Like, we can rest in the fact knowing we serve a God that is everlasting and sovereign, and is in control of our entire lives.
Me and Lydia were walking back the other day after campers went to bed, and we were talking about like, if a good thing becomes a God thing, it's an idol. And how often we let good things become God things in our lives. Like, a relationship is not a bad thing, but if a relationship's above God, it's a bad thing. A sport is not a bad thing, but if your sport is above God, it's not a God. It's becoming your God thing, and God is the only thing that should be your God thing. And I feel like that was just like so clear in my head of being like, oh well, it's not bad. It's like, yeah, it's not a bad thing if you're using it for God's glory and surrendering it to him. But if you're controlling it and putting it above God, then you're trying to make something a God in your life that has no place to be God. Because we have the one true King in our hearts.
And I think a lot of times as Christians, we don't necessarily go into something being like, this is my important, this is like way more important than God. We kind of find ourselves in that position because we don't prioritize the Lord like we should, and we kind of put little things like in front, and that's not how the Lord intended. We are put on this planet to bring glory to him, and even like every little thing we do needs to bring glory to him. And if we are doing things to please ourselves, and like out of like, I don't know, like choosing worldly things over things of his kingdom, then it's gonna set us up for failure. Even if it's not a bad, horrible thing, like if it's a beautiful thing, and we put it in a place that it doesn't deserve to be, then we're set up for failure automatically.
That's so good. Okay, so freshman year, what did you learn, like, as you went to Liberty? Why did you choose Liberty, and then what did you learn through that?
So I wanted to go to a big state school. I wanted to go to UGA so bad. It's just kind of like where I said I wanted to go since middle school, and so when I was touring schools, that's where I always said I was going to end up. I actually never toured UGA. I kind of, the Lord kind of did something in there, but Liberty kind of was a place that kept popping up everywhere, and I was like, they came to my school and they're like, hey, come tour, and I was like, okay, like, why not? And so I went and toured because I could skip school. We have to add that in. Like, I toured because I wanted to skip school. Not a great motive, but I mean, the Lord works in crazy ways. And so I get there, he starts like kind of like putting things like in my path of like, I'd see it and I'd be like, oh, this place is actually really cool. And so I got to campus, and I'm telling you, the second I stepped on, I felt a peace like I've never felt before, and it was almost an audible voice that was like, this is where you're gonna go. And I'm telling you, like, you can argue me like all day long on this, like I am positive that it was from the Lord, because it was like, oh my word, like it was like time stopped and I was just standing there, and I was like, okay, this is where I'm going, and I was like fighting it almost. Because it's 9 hours from where I live. I didn't know a single person there. I was just not wanting to go. And the Lord kind of worked through that and like softened my heart to that idea. And I grew up in a Christian school, and I didn't really want a repeat of that. And it honestly has not been. And so the Lord's kind of worked through that and put amazing friendships and just amazing opportunities that I wouldn't have gotten elsewhere. Something that I kind of like learned through freshman year. So friendships have always been something that's like, I mean, girls talk about friendships all the time. Friendships have been something that's important to me, and I have had amazing friends. Do not hear that, but you know, sometimes it's hard to keep friends. Or like, I would always be like the girl in the youth group who was like pouring into the younger girls, and I didn't have anybody pouring into me. And so trying to fill somebody's cup when nobody's pouring into you is extremely hard, because then you find yourself pouring out of your flesh, and that is like not, people don't want me, they want the Lord, and that's kind of where my mind's at now. And so I've just been praying. I'm like, Lord, please put somebody in my life who is gonna mentor me, and somebody I can mentor, and also somebody who's on the same level as me, so we can encourage each other. And that's kind of been a prayer I've been praying for like a year or two. And so when I got to college, we have this thing called CGL, which is a community group leader. On Wednesday nights, we like lead community groups, or like the community group leader leads community group in her room, and it's just like 10 girls, and that's like their safe space, and you can just talk through everything. And so from high school, I was so used to leading these groups that I'm like, okay, like let me lead it. And I literally went through the application process. I did like up into the interview, and I texted her 5 minutes before my interview when I was just like, I was there, like I was gonna have to walk to go do it, and I texted her, I'm like, hey, I don't feel at peace about this, and we talked, and it wasn't right, and so I kind of just like waited out and got put in a group, and I got put with a girl who's so amazing. She's so awesome, and she was a senior, and so she was enough ahead of me where she could pour into me, and she did that for the whole first year. She just poured into me. We would go get dinner, we would get coffee, we would get lunch, and she was just there for me. And then because she did that, I was able to pour into a girl. And so
that's awesome.
We would meet up on Sundays, and we would kind of talk through things. And so because I was poured into, I was able to pour out. And so that's kind of something I've tried to like keep in my life, is just maybe it's not the same people throughout my entire life. Maybe it's different people in different seasons, but just having somebody to pour into you that you're able to pour into as well.
And I think that goes into this summer, like honestly, so beautifully, like we have this like joy and honor to love on students all summer long, and every week it's new students, and it's like, what a blessing. But if we're pouring out, eventually you're going to be dry, and we don't want to pour out anything from our own selves. We only want to be pouring out from the overflow of who Jesus is in our lives. And I think that's just been clear already, of like how we can all lean on each other as a staff, which has been like literally the sweetest thing. Like I came in and I was like, I'm not here to make friends, and then I met people and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be best friends with everyone. Like everyone's so fun and so encouraging, and it's just like the sweetest community. And so it's like filling up on our own personal time in the Word, just like listening to each other. It's just like so cool of being like, we're getting paid to pour out in this summer, in this season, but also we're getting poured into in such a sweet,
it's awesome,
and wholesome way. And just how the Lord shows up with that. And so it's like, even if you're not a camp counselor this summer, like this might not seem realistic, but like that's for any stage of life. Like who can you pour into, and who can you ask to pour into you? And like I used to be like, oh, I don't have a mentor, and somebody was like, well, have you asked anybody to be your mentor? And I was like, no. She was like, who's the godliest woman who's just a stage ahead of you? Go ask her. And I was like, oh. And then mentoring somebody else, it's like, who's in your youth group that could use somebody to love? And it's not, they don't have to be far from Christ either. Like it could be a believer, but you're like, they need to be encouraged.
They need to be loved. They
That's
need to be
awesome.
encouraged.
Okay, best part of camp so far, and then we'll wrap up.
I have loved the people and getting to love on the people. I mean, it sounds like a basic answer. I love the staff and just having that community and support system. I was constantly with them. They're like literally the nicest people you'll ever meet. Like they are so for
incredible.
you. Like it's not real. It's not a real place.
The podcast this summer are gonna be bomb. Just a new one every week. I'm gonna try my best.
Like I love everyone, and the students. It's just been, I know these are basic answers, but like genuinely seeing the Lord work through you as a vessel, because I don't know, I kind of went into the summer being like, oh, like I'll get to see all the things, like thinking I'll get to see all the like life change. And like so this is an example. I taught a Bible study this Wednesday, and I had an amazing group. Love all of them, and they they were very engaged the entire week, like pouring amazing answers out. And this day they didn't really say much. Like they had some input, they would answer the questions, but like they wouldn't go further than that. And I was like, I didn't do that. I was like putting it on me, and I'm like, okay, like first off, it's not on me, like you know, as long as I'm preaching, or not preaching, but like as long as I'm
being obedient,
speaking truth out of his word, then I'm doing the right thing. And so I'm just gonna let him work. And so I prayed over that. And that night at worship, a girl came up to me and was like, hey, what you said really spoke to me. Can we sit down and can we have a talk? And through that, I was able to share the gospel over the lunch the next day. And so just having those little bits of like realizing that you are not like, it sounds harsh, but you're not good enough.
No,
you're not. Like, I can't save anybody. I'm not here to be like the best.
Like, God doesn't need me. Like, he is fully capable to do this without me, anything without me. And it is humbling of like, it's not what I can say, it's not what I can do. It's not, if I wasn't here, the same thing would be happening. But it's like he chose us for such a time as this. And so like, even, I didn't mean to interrupt there, but even as like for the listener of like, whatever you're walking through, like, this is not supposed to be in a rude way, but somebody else could be doing your job. But Jesus called you to do that. He's put you in a place and a time for this, and to be obedient to that, and then being like, the pressure's off. We're not the ones saving. But we are called to be obedient, and to be obedient to like what he's putting in front of us.
We're not good enough to like, it's not like, oh, look at me, like I'm the best out there. Like, oh, my group's the best, like any of that kind of stuff. It's really I said yes to an offer the Lord put on the table. And through that, he's using me as his vessel to impact hundreds and hundreds of students who I get to love on. And I get to love on not through myself, but through his love. And like, loving somebody through yourself versus loving someone through Christ are completely different things. And so that's kind of something I've been learning, is just how to genuinely love somebody through Christ and not just out of my own strength. Because like, love is a choice, and like some students, maybe I'll wake up and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna snap on you. But because of the love of Christ, you can genuinely love them. And you don't know what these students are like coming in with. Like, you don't know what their home life's like. You just see them in the area that they're in, and this is such a cool ministry because they come to you. So you're able to just sit there and love on them as much as possible and get to share the gospel.
Okay, this is about to be so choppy, and we're sorry.
It overheated twice.
And you probably hear the car going, so we're just sorry. But the Lord is still faithful, and like what we were saying is, it's not about what we can do. So trusting that the Lord is going to use this episode however he needs to. Okay, so we talked about like, if I'm trying to love somebody out of my own flesh, I'm going to not love well. And that's just not how I'm going to serve, but then also just like the sweet opportunity of kids coming to us. And like, not to take that for granted.
And our little bit of time when the phone did overheat, we were just like kind of talking about how like cool that is, that the students come to us and we get to pour into them as much as possible. And so just seeing the life change that happens, whether that's through like calls to ministry, even just like, I find such joy in just like it clicking. Just like the Bible studies and everything, just like clicking in certain students' lives. And maybe they didn't give their life to Christ, but it just kind of clicked.
Like one step closer to that.
And just seeing the Lord work, and just seeing how mighty he is, and just seeing how little I am and how little I can do, but knowing that there's a God so much bigger than us, and like, he's good. Like, he's such a good God, and he's not good based off our circumstances, but based off his character. And so that's something that I just like take to heart a lot, and just making him our refuge and strength through this time, because it's not an easy job. It's very tiring, very exhausting, but just like taking our refuge and getting our strength through him is really where
And I think that's like a sweet place to just like end of like, whatever you're walking through right now, he is your refuge and his strength. And it's an honor that he chose to use you in certain situations. He chose to put you in the neighborhood and in the school and with the family that you have, to be this light and this vessel for him, and to lean on him in that. Like, it's not what you can do. It's not by your own strength. In our weakness, he is made strong. And that's just, like, so frank.
Yeah. It's kind of like what my pastor at home always says. He says, wherever you find yourself tomorrow, know that the Lord's put you there for a purpose, so shine bright for him and be his missionary. And that's how we leave every Sunday. And
that's
so,
awesome.
Honestly, that's kind of
word.
That's the word right there.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for doing it in a car. And thank you guys for listening. And I'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.